In this series of videos, I want to take you through the process of how I've been making my own tongue-and-groove flooring. We have a very rough-looking log home that we built ourselves, and my work area, of course, is out here on the porch. And I've got some rough-cut poplar that I'm converting into floorboards that have a tongue-and-groove edge. But I want to take you through the process of how I figured out how to do this. And as you can see, my sample template board here is actually a double grooved board. All right, and in this video I want to show you how I'm making the tongue pieces. You might refer to them as splines or full-length biscuits. It's almost like a biscuit joinery. And so what I'm using is some cutoffs from the poplar. This is some waste material from edging some of the boards, and I'm using a router to make the slots or the grooves. That's in another video, but I want to show you how I'm making the tongues with just a table saw. So in all these videos you'll see that I'm not using anything special. I've got a table saw, a router, I use a jigsaw for a few things, and a circular saw. So with some common power tools you can make your own flooring. Now this flooring is has no subfloor under it, so the boards are 1.5 inches thick, and you're going to see these boards from underneath. These boards are going up to our second floor. We have a 2-story house here. The second floor is not finished. We're putting that flooring in. So on the first floor, when you look up, you will see the underside of these boards. All right, so in the other videos you'll see some of that as well. So what I'm doing here for the tongues is using a slot cutter bit for the grooves. I need to know what the depth is of my slots and how wide I need to make each tongue piece. So as you probably have guessed, the tongue piece will go in this slot here, and then there'll be a tongue on the board next to it, and the two will join together. All right, so the slot is approximately 1/2 inch deep. That's about what the slot bit on the router will cut. So 1/2 inch on each board would give you 1 inch for the tongue piece, but I have undercut the tongue pieces at 7/8, just so that I don't accidentally cut just a hair too wide and then not be able to knock the boards together. So tongues are at 7/8, and the thickness of the groove is about 3/16. So we're going to rip some of these long pieces here at 3/16 by 7/8. So I've got the table saw set at 7/8, and got a piece of stock here that is well over 7/8 wide, and it's well over 3/16 thick. So we're going to use this to hopefully get 1, if not 2 long splines or full-length tongue pieces out of this, and we'll see what they look like. Okay, we've got 1 piece at 7/8. Just got done ripping that one. So now we're going to turn it on edge and cut that at 3/16. So over it goes. And about there. Okay, so let's rip this at 3/16, and then I'll check it in my template, which I've set over here against the wall, and see how the fit is. Okay, We have our 3/16 thickness cut, and that's what it looks like. About 7/8 wide by 3/16 thick. And here's my template board. So let's give it a fit and see what it looks like. Hey, that's pretty good. Okay, not too tight, but also no significant play. So unlike finished machined tongue and groove flooring, I am not counting on the tongue and groove locking together so tight that it also adds structure to the floor. These are very thick boards, and I don't need the tongue and groove locking together to add structure to the flooring. These are not going to sag. They're not going to give at all while you're walking on them or putting weight on them. The tongue is merely to block any light from the first floor coming up, from below. That's really it. So I'll explain more about that in a future video. So out of those pieces of stock, I was able to cut 4 pretty long splines, and those will be used as the tongues. In the next video, I'll show you the steps I go through for shaping and edging and eventually cutting the grooves in the rough cut boards.